But yeah, let's take a look at this crystal ball radar. I was just saying, RJ, that regardless of what people think about crystal ball or breaking points, I think it's pretty undeniable that she does a fantastic job in this instance, breaking down this Build Back Better negotiation, just what a disaster it's become. And like I said, what progressives in Congress should do in response to this absolute gutting of a bill that at one point was seemingly fairly based.
Guys, as we discussed, we've now got some real details on exactly what the White House wants in the final reconciliation package. And as I said before, there is just no way around it. This thing is a dog in nearly every way. So let's just go again through some of the details per Jeff Stein. First of all, overall price tag, maximum of $1.9 trillion and more likely in the $1.75 trillion range for those keeping score at home. That is more than $4 trillion less than the $6 trillion progressives ultimately wanted, but a mere $0.25 trillion off of what the corporate Democrats demanded. Now look, top line is not everything, of course, but it does give you a pretty decent sense of what direction this package that has been proposed is ultimately tilted in. Critical programs are stripped down entirely, or they're radically reduced. The child tax credit would only be extended for a year. In the middle of a pandemic, when voters routinely say that healthcare is their top priority, every healthcare proposal would be significantly scaled back. Now, progressives are holding on to the fact that expansion of Medicare benefits may be kept in, but even on that front, analysts are warning the numbers don't really add up and it might be dramatically underfunded. Biden even collapsed on what he said was one of his own top priorities, that's free community college. He told voters very recently that he was insisting on that provision being in the final package. So much for that. It is gone, replaced pathetically by some scholarships. But wait, there's much more here. Affordable housing money, slashed. Elder care money, slashed. Paid leave, slashed. Prescription drug reform most likely is going to be out. Finally, and critically, the climate change provisions have been totally gutted. Manchin, as you know, rejected the renewable energy standard, which was at the core of the Biden climate proposal. Now, look, we have no idea what it's going to be replaced with, but we do know whatever it's going to be is going to be small potatoes. They're only allocating $300 billion for whatever the climate piece ends up being. Now, look at this. As Ryan Grimm put it, that dollar amount, with no real way of tackling utility emissions, is effectively climate denialism. Here's hoping Bill Gates figures out that whole dimming the sun thing, I guess. Now, there's a lot to say about all of this. The first and most pressing thing to say is that progressives must reject this proposal and be prepared to vote it down if it ultimately comes to that. It's not a close call, guys. Remember, the rallying cry of progressives throughout this whole process was no climate, no deal. And to their credit, up to this point, they have held the line. They won that first game of chicken with corporatists. They forced everyone back to the negotiating table. If they cave now, when their only clear demand was gutted like a fish, they'll be betraying their supporters and they will never be taken seriously in DC again. But as I look at this proposal holistically, more important to them not being trusted again, it seems to me that this is really a generational betrayal. Because it's young people, once again, who got the worst end of this dog. You're denying them the chance to go to college without being saddled with crushing debt. You're denying them the ability to afford to raise a family. You're denying them the ability to inhabit a planet that isn't catastrophically careening towards disaster. You are once again allowing corporations and those who already got theirs to rob the future from the young. Now, do I think progressives will actually vote this bill down? Not looking too good, guys. Pramila Jayapal, whose leadership I have praised up to this point, seems pleased as punch with this disastrous mess, outrageously claiming that, quote, all our priorities are there in some way, shape, or form. She also said this nauseating trash about Joe Biden.
So the president is the inspirer. He is the closer. He is the convincer. The mediator in chief. He really is doing a phenomenal job.
I don't know if I want to eat cyanide or feed it to every single member of our fucking government.
Just fucking kill me. Just fucking kill me. When I saw that, like, I wasn't surprised. No, well, let me just say this. It's always surprising to hear it, but at the same time, it's not. Because it's like you expect it out of those people. You just don't expect them to be this much of a kiss ass. You know, that's just my initial opinion on that. Basically, like, their refusal to really pass any of these progressive legislation just goes against basic politics, you know. Even if you didn't believe in this shit, like, hey, voters want this shit. Hey, give them that. Maybe they'll vote for you. Like, the standard political curve goes from, hey, I like this guy, I'll vote for him, to, well, he did this, so who gives a fuck, I'll just vote for him. But Biden's track started with, who gives a fuck? So now your next track is, boo, you fucking suck, of course I'm not going to vote for you. So this strategy right now of just, playing chicken, and this is just classic Democrat move right now. Like, Joe Biden allowing himself to continually gut this infrastructure bill without getting any concrete counter argument from these conservative Dems about what they want. Think about this. Kirsten Sinema, this entire time, has not given an outlined or detailed plan of what she wanted and why she's against certain parts of this legislation. Not at all. That is the biggest issue. And what Joe Biden and a lot of these conservative Democrats are doing is they're trying to gut this bill, and it means to appease someone who is refusing to tell them what their bottom line is. So you're getting played. Now, those watching this are saying, well, RJ, you should expect this from Joe Biden. He's always been this conservative Democrat. That's true. But this strategy is sucking and it's sucking and it's sucking. That's why a lot of times it's putting a lot of pressure on these progressive politicians in office to actually try to hold the line on this. And this is something they have to do. A lot of people on online Twitter who have made very good counter arguments against the squad, but have been supporting through this, especially through a lot of these tough times with negotiations. They said if they don't actually stand up for really this very bottom of the barrel type policies or whatever's left in this infrastructure bill, that they're going to come after them.
Yeah, even the most diehard, defenders of the squad, it seems, have finally been tweeting, I like the guy, I'm not trying to dunk on him, but even, the serfs were tweeting like, oh, there's no way that the squad's going to vote for this bill. And I feel bad because I'm like, this is just immense naivete, right? And the other part of me, it feels like, after watching this whole thing go down, right, and feeling like I was crazy for thinking that, there was no chance that anything good was going to come. And I was like really wanting to believe that, all this hype is for real. Like we always kind of in the back of our mind want to believe that something good is coming. But now I'm starting to think that this, Machiavellian bastard that we have in the White House set this all up for the fucking jump. And maybe not him, but his advisors, right? Here is why. And here's what really fucking gets to me, right? Because it's so performative. It's so theatrical. This idea that they're negotiating against themselves. They had the numbers in the House, supposedly, right? 60 strong in the Progressive Caucus. That's what Pramila Jayapal was saying at first. But they never forced Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema to actually vote on it. They never sent the legislation to the Senate. There was no time where they were like, put your money where your mouth is and vote down this $3.5 trillion bill. There was no time where they did that. It was just like, oh, okay. Like, we're going to either, try and put up a bill that we know isn't going to be worth the time of the progressives. And, at least you can congratulate them, say, okay, you didn't let the worst fucking bill get over to the Senate, which would have passed and then it would have been over. But you also never forced them to put a really damn good bill over to the Senate and make Joe Manchin vote it down, make Kirsten Sinema vote it down. Because that's a death sentence for their, political career. They're going to have to listen to ad after ad after ad already, like Joe Manchin is, talking about how he is devastating the American economy, talking about how West Virginia is already dead last in all these metrics. You know what I mean? It just feels like this was their plan from the jump, so they never had to do it.
Yeah, and not only that, but Joe Manchin, if you remember, actually started out by saying that he would go for a $4 trillion bill, I believe, when originally what was being proposed was like 10 or 6 trillion even. So they absolutely got played by even lowering it down to 3.5 in the first place and then letting Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema basically chip it down, keep, negotiating down and down and down. Of course, they weren't going to give preference to Bernie and the progressives. They were always going to give preference to Manchin, Sinema, and the centrists, the right-wing Democrats that are trying to kill this and trying to strip every decent provision out of it. Again, even those decent provisions themselves being total fucking compromises. Free community college for all or whatever is already a compromise from just tuition-free college. All of these provisions are themselves compromises, and now we're compromising on the compromises once again, and it absolutely looks like the squad, all the progressives, will probably capitulate on this. What's your thoughts, though? Do you think they're going to just straight up capitulate, RJ?
I still think the way the progressives moves all depends on Bernie Sanders. I mean, we've all seen that Politico article from like early this year. They said, hey, if we get Bernie to flip to our side, the progressives will fall in line. And for the most part, since they've came into Congress, that's been the basic strat. But what's interesting about Bernie Sanders right now is he's put the gloves on, as some people have been saying. I'm not going to be optimistic. Like, I'm very pessimistic when it comes to Bernie Sanders and the squad. But Bernie Sanders has now started using more, I would say, a lot of rhetoric against Manchin and Sinema and some other, conservative Dems who won't get in line, because I think the angle which Bernie is playing right now, which I believe isn't really the correct approach, but he's really drinking this juice of like pragmatic progressives, of which he's trying to coin now. And his idea is that, well, I'm going to be the responsible progressive. I'm going to be the guy that says this is what we want, and it's not too difficult. It's not too crazy. It's something that basic people want. And then those radical, conservative Democrats, they're the crazy ones. Like, that's the argument he's trying to make. But it only works if you actually stand your ground. For this amount of time, we've seen Sinema. She, like I said before, even on this podcast today, like, she stands for nothing. Like, when you ask her, she just gives you like weird milquetoast examples. She takes corporate cash all the time. Even from the very same industries those bills are trying to fight against, she takes money from them. I mean, look at Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is an MFer. I mean, we actually have
a really good clip about Joe Manchin we're going to play in a second to get into his insane corruption.
Okay, yeah, I won't talk about that then until now. But like, yeah, my prediction is, God, I hate being the Debbie Downer. I would say the progressives, because of the climate proposal. I mean, that's, a lot of young people looking at that. They may try to fight on that, but I do feel like it will be unsuccessful. But again, it all depends on Bernie.
And he literally just ran a panel discussion that was called "What's in the Damn Bill," trying to get people excited about it. Even that streamed 1 day ago on YouTube. So that was already after it was clear that Joe Biden was thinking about something in the $1.8 trillion region. I'm thinking it looks like a capitulation all over it, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, and I did want to take a quick look at this secular talk video as well. We don't have to watch the whole thing, but just this part where he basically makes a similar plea as Krystal does, that these progressives have to protest this. They have to vote against it. So I want to take a look at this before we move on to our next story.
Then I say hell no. Now, even if you play hardball, and this is where, I change the conversation and I'm talking to my friends on the left. Even if you play the hardball, you might only be able to get a $2.5 trillion deal, but $2.5 trillion is doable as long as there's climate in there and there's no means testing in there, and it's acceptable, and I would vote for it. But now we're talking about $1.75 trillion giving away the farm, and it's honestly a joke of a bill. So this is my message to progressive lawmakers is, don't vote for this one. If these are the terms of the deal, no way. If you played hardball, maybe if Joe Biden did the right thing and approached this the right way, there is a 20 or 30% chance he could have gotten them on $3.5 trillion. I'm not naive. I know it's still not likely, even if he played politics the right way, but definitely if you play politics the right way, I think he could get them on $2 trillion or more, $2.5 trillion, maybe $2.9 trillion.
And that's a great point, too, that I want to talk about a little bit, because I think there's been such an effort to make Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin the villains here. They're the ones that are preventing this. And in a sense, obviously, that is correct. They are quite literally the two votes preventing this bill from passing. But I don't think nearly enough blame has been, passed to Joe Biden himself, the president of the United States, is allowing his own agenda to get totally fucking castrated by these fucking corporate goons. And like you said, RJ, not only is it terrible politics, not only will it hurt this country, but it's going to be dog shit for the Democratic Party in general. They're going to now lose the House and the Senate. Joe Biden will likely lose re-election, or whoever they try to run at the top of the ticket in 2024, because they have nothing to show for their time in power. Once again, just like with Obama, the first 2 years of having essentially a supermajority has been totally fucking squandered. Absolutely nothing to show for it. Again, despite the fact that people did go out and vote for them after being promised
Uh-oh, I think he's frozen.
Yeah, I think Gavin froze a little bit, but he'll be coming back in just 1 second. 100%. And what's crazy about Joe Biden is, and this is the one beef I take with Kyle, or not beef, I guess, but just one slight disagreement where he says if he played politics correctly, if he had negotiated and done, gone and played fucking hardball to the best of his ability as president, if he was actually serious about, passing a massive infrastructure bill that was going to be like his namesake piece of legislation, Build Back Better, etc. I think absolutely he gets 3.5 trillion, because here's what I would do. And Kyle has made these points before, which is why I'm wondering why he's negotiated down to 2.5 trillion would be a good thing. 3.5 trillion, you get that done by sending Joe Biden, and Joe Biden, he gives up a call with AOC, and then he gets up a call with another more moderate kind of congressperson that's still in favor of an infrastructure bill, 3.5, and he gets a guy like Ed Markey, who's been in Congress for a long time, and he just kind of gets a smattering of all these people, and he says, we're going to have a rally in West Virginia, and we're going to talk about all the good things that we're going to pass from this big bill, this massive bill, right? And he'll do kind of a big scale of what Bernie did in his Why You Should Vote for This Watered Down Piece of Shit bill video that he did with his panel, his town hall, whatever. And that will actually give people a reason to put real serious pressure on Joe Manchin, right? Because if you see that all of these people from all across the Democratic Party are in West Virginia, and they're putting pressure on him, and they're talking about how hey Manchin, you better get on fucking board, or we're going to be giving platform speaking time to the person that we say is supposed to endorse you. Yeah, you just need to understand that it takes real serious pressure, because you're always working against money, right? And money will make you talk, or it will make you shut the fuck up, right? So you have to put in something that's more powerful to Joe Manchin than money. And maybe you're right. You could do every single thing, and Joe Manchin is willing to just lay down his career as a senator for this one piece of legislation. But you have to fucking shoot the hostage afterwards. You have to kick his ass out of fucking the Senate, right? You have to do everything you can as president. You have to, go there all the time just to make your point. Fuck every single other election. Get Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema out if they fuck you. That is how you send a message, and that is how you let the people know that we're actually fighting for shit. That's how you get 3.5 trillion. That's how you get 4 trillion. There was a time where Joe Manchin and fucking self was saying 4 trillion. If Bernie had said, no way, I'm sticking at 6 trillion. This is my fucking hard line. We need 10 trillion. I'm offering 60% is the lowest I can go for my constituents. That is the bottom of the barrel deal. And then he just forces the conversation to always be talking about 6. They had literally had to correct, Jen Psaki had to correct the White House press correspondence that the 3.5 wasn't Bernie Sanders' plan. If Bernie Sanders had been harping as much about 6 trillion, there's no way 1.8 is on the conversation.